Title of this is Israel to join the war as Trump escalates.
Did you see Trump's post this morning?
Which of the posts? Which of them?
The post that he'll be bombing a power plant and a bridge for every ship the Iranian attack.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
I spoke to the. I don't know if you read the book that went.
The IRGC has responded to that. So Trump said that any attack on a ship, right here, Trump ultimatum. Trump vows the U.S. will strike an Iranian bridge or power plant after every Iranian strike on shipping. Iran response, the IRGC threatens to hit Gulf energy infrastructure if Iranian infrastructure is attacked, saying it will cut off electricity among U.S. allies. That's exactly what I'd expect them to do. Trump is not going to get the Strait of Hormuz open with threats like this. He's just going to get all U.S. allies in the Gulf have their infrastructure destroyed.
Well, if you heard about the book that went viral, that Trump was pissed off about regime change. So that book that came out that did a deep dive into Trump and his inner circle and how he changed and all that by the New York Times reporter, interviewed people in his administration, interviewed Trump. And a lot of people have been quoting parts of it on decisions, why he made certain decisions when it comes to the war in Iran. And I asked her a question. I'm trying to understand, when can you tell if Trump is serious versus a bluff like him wiping out a civilization? And she said it's impossible to really tell. There's no clear difference between the two. But one indicator that I've been using is, and she found relevant, is what makes when the threat is serious, he's usually precise about it. And in this case, he was like, we will strike a power plant or a bridge for every ship the Iranians strike. It's very different to, we're going to wipe out a civilization, we're going to obliterate a country. So I'm worried that this threat is actually serious. And I'm really worried that this is going to escalate into what we consider taboo.
I'm not as worried. Reason is, second weekend of the war, Trump's hits a desalination plant. Iran responds, hits a desalination plant in Bahrain. Trump never hits a desalination plant again until the last week. So then the next weekend he hits an oil facility. Iran hits oil facilities in the Gulf states. Iran does an eye for an eye every time. And the Gulf states start screaming at Trump, stop, 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 stop. Don't bomb their desalination plants, power plants, etc. So what will happen probably, Iran attacks a ship, Trump bombs a bridge or a power station, Iran hits the Gulf states scream at Trump to stop, and then Trump stops attacking power plants, even if Iran keeps attacking ships.
A few months ago, and that is...
Besides, for Iran to have ships to attack, that means you have to have ships crazy enough to try to go through the Strait of Hormuz, to sneak through the Strait of Hormuz. And I think that after, 2 ships have been sunk now, there's actual mines in the Omani Passage. There's 7 total ships that have been attacked by Iran trying to sneak through. Everyone knows that it's basically suicide right now during full-scale war to try to sneak through the Omani Passage. So I don't think there'll be very many ships that try to do that. And if they're not ships trying to sneak through, Iran won't be attacking very many ships. So that's another reason I'm not too worried.
It's a war targeting the energy infrastructure in the region. The US would target Iran's would target the Gulfs.
Look, trying to dissect and read into understand Trump's post on Truth Social, I think is a monumental waste of time. I mean, read it, analyze it. It's our job. It's our job to try and understand what's happening in the world and what the president...
I think that tweet by Trump is serious enough that it'll happen at least one time. That means a ship gets attacked, there will be an attack on a bridge or a power plant by U.S. the first time it happens.
Allegedly writes. Wouldn't even know if he writes half of these posts. Okay, that's newsworthy. Trying to figure out what's going on in the grand scheme of things. We have a war going on right now between the United States and Iran. Trump says that he's going to hit this and that facility for every bridge, he's going to hit this and that bridge for every tanker that Iran hits. Okay, maybe he does do that. Maybe he doesn't. He's already hit bridges. He's hit, 4 bridges already?
3.
Okay. So just a couple of hours ago, Trump was saying that this war in Iran, it's not really a war, it's a skirmish.
I saw
he
that,
told
yeah.
an audience I believe in Georgia, it's a skirmish. So it's not even a war. Right? He posted he put something on Truth Social before
he
headsets.
said it there. He said it again. This is with this skirmish we have with Iran,
Right.
and I call it because let me tell you, they're getting hit so hard. Oh, that's the one you're referring to, and they want to make a deal, but I say they're not ready to make a deal because every time you make a deal, they want to change it and everything. They're not ready. There will be very soon. Okay, I thought that was something new, but no, this is the same.
They will be very soon, implying that he's going to hit them hard enough to change their mind, which is not going to happen. Rather, it's going to be you, Trump, that changes your mind.
You're referring to.
Says the guy the president who was in Versailles.
Trump is apparently calling up the general in Pakistan, Munir, and again and again saying, "Get me an off ramp." And when Munir gives him the off ramp, he doesn't like it. So the off ramp, by the way, was just live up to U.S. size of the MOU, and Iran will agree to a 10-day ceasefire. But Trump has no intention of living up to the MOU he signed.
Signing the memorandum of understanding, and then basically tore up the memorandum of understanding. Says the guy who tore up the JCPOA. Right? Iran's not ready for the deal. Okay. We're in this war. Now most of the analysts are predicting that this is going to be a long war. There'll be many starts.
It won't. It's not like Syria. Syria, yeah, that was a 14-year war that ended December 2024 when the Assad regime fell. Yeah, it was just the West funding insurgencies there, attacking Syria endlessly until the regime was destroyed. You can't do that with Iran because it controls the Strait of Hormuz. And once the oil shortage happens, the entire world will realize, yeah, we just can't go to war with Iran. It'll wreck the global economy.
Many stops, but the war will be going on for quite a while. Whatever pauses come about going forward are meant to keep the price of oil down, are meant to not cause a global economic catastrophe. But once things calm down in the global economy, things will start up again. This is probably how we're going to go about things going forward.
That is maybe how the deep state wants to go about things. It won't be possible. The Strait of Hormuz are going to eliminate that possibility. There will be insurgencies funded, lots of covert action against Iran, but outright war, official war, that's never going to happen again once this particular confrontation ends.
Now, Iran understands this, and the last thing that Iran wants to have happen is a long drawn out conflict, which is why they're going to hold on to the big leverage.
Yeah, and that's not just Strait of Hormuz. Iran's going to come out of this with a nuke. With a nuke and control of the Strait of Hormuz, yeah, the United States can't attack Iran again.
They're going to use the big leverage that they have, which is Hormuz. And what the Trump administration is going to do, what they're trying to do over the next couple of weeks, is to wrest control of Hormuz from Iran.
It won't work.
That's where we are at the moment. Iran understands their leverage. Actually, Ghalibaf also put out a statement a couple of hours ago, and he said the same thing that I'm pretty much saying right now, which is that if we're not selling our oil, if we're under attack, well, then no one's going to sell their oil.
Yeah, and the commander of the Air Force said that if our infrastructure is struck, we will strike. And there it is. The IRGC airspace commander says Iran will target electricity infrastructure in regional countries that host U.S. forces if Iranian bridges or power plants are attacked. Iran's Qatam al-Anbiya central headquarters also threatened to halt all regional oil exports and target oil, gas, electricity, and other economic infrastructure if the U.S. attacks Iran's infrastructure. Then you've got the Ghalibaf statement. You said the equation of this was clear, either all or none. And then Arachi said the same thing as well, just about an hour ago. Our defense doctrine is clear. Eye for an eye. Any aggression against Iran, including our infrastructure, will compel a powerful and decisive response. Those who contribute to such aggression, whatever kind of support, will also be considered as legitimate targets. An eye for an eye. You hit our bridge, you hit infrastructure, we hit infrastructure. And they did that last week. The Americans hit 3 bridges.
They've done that since the very beginning of the war, since that first desalination plant was bombed.
The Iranians hit desalination plants and power plants in Kuwait. And then Americans hit a bridge again. The Iranians are like, do one more time. We'll strike the airports and ports in the UAE. And since then, Americans haven't hit any bridge.
Well, the U.S. also went after water facilities in Iran as well.
They did, and power plants, yeah.
And power plants.
And you have Trump putting out a statement, I believe during the same speech in Georgia, where he said that the United States doesn't need. Yeah, he said the United States doesn't need Hormuz, and then right afterwards he said Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Yeah. Can I want to play that clip? I actually saved the show to you. let me play. Lisa, can you play that clip I sent you earlier? He said that, I have to admit, I was dying laughing. We'll play the clip now. It's worth listening to. But I would love you to analyze
What's
the
this?
clip, Alex. There you go. Now play it now, Lisa. The one I sent you earlier. There we go. So this is Trump about in Georgia, just about in the last hour, I think. He started the speech.
I used to respect most of what Trump said because most of it was essentially true. You would hyperbole a lot, but now it's just flat out lies.
Yeah, I think it was in Georgia.
Straits, we don't need anything. We don't need the Hormuz Strait, but we do it because we have to do it because we cannot let Iran.
We need Hormuz or the global economy crashes. We've been surviving since the war began based on reserves of oil. Once those reserves run out, you're just going to have recession around the world, even a depression. We need the Strait of Hormuz open.
Iran have a nuclear weapon. It's very.
I mean, I can't analyze it. There's nothing to analyze.
I can't believe Trump let himself be tricked into this Iran war. The instant he bombs the Supreme Leader, he was screwed. And it's not just he's taking himself down, he's taking Republicans down in the midterms with him. And you're going to have the worst of people elected instead. You're going to have more men and women's sports, for example, because of Trump's idiotic decision to attack Iran.
Doesn't make any sense. Right? There's nothing to analyze. It makes no sense. The Strait of Hormuz was open 3 months ago. You had the JCPOA in your first term, and you walked away from it. And you could have negotiated a new JCPOA. You were very close to negotiating a JCPOA.
Yeah.
The Oman mediators said as much.
The Strait of Hormuz were open, and a deal was on the table right the day that Trump bombed the Supreme Leader that was better than Obama's JCPOA. So he could have had a better nuclear deal and the Strait of Hormuz open, and it would have cost him nothing in terms of war. No, wouldn't have to use up 50% of our Tomahawk missiles, etc. We would be so much better off in every single way if he had done the negotiations.
That the deal was basically done. So, Trump is buying time. And he's excellent at buying time. And he's excellent.
No. I've said it from the beginning. Iran holds the Strait of Hormuz closed 6 months, they win. It wasn't about buying time. The world always had about 6 months of oil reserves available to it. I knew that when the war started. That's why I said 6 months. 6 months is the time it takes the world to drain out their oil reserves. And once the oil reserves are gone, then there's just shortage. And price spikes. You have lines. You don't have diesel or jet fuel. It's a disaster. We are reaching that disaster. Trump wasn't good at buying time. He's just been twiddling his thumbs, doing this, doing that, bombing them, agreeing to a ceasefire, agreeing to the MOU, then bombing them again. It's all just like I said. I expected that from the beginning. He isn't. He had 6 months. He hasn't bought himself any time, and the time he had that he didn't buy himself is running out.
At dragging this thing, stringing this thing along, because that is what they're trying to do, and I understand the strategy. If you can remove the leverage of Hormuz, that the Iran.
Yes, if all of Trump's problems would be solved, he could walk away. Number one reason he can't walk away is Hormuz. If the Hormuz didn't exist, he could say, well, there's nuclear materials buried under mountain. We hit them really hard, destroyed all of this stuff, and so we're just walking away now. He could just do that, but he can't because of Hormuz.
Iranians now have. Then you could treat Iran, the basic thinking, I know they're different situations, but the basic thinking is the playbook is you can treat Iran in the same way that you treated Syria or Libya or Iraq.
Exactly. It's now Project Iran. It was Project Syria from 2011 to 2024. Then the Assad regime fell, and in 2025, you have Israel attack Iran. That was the opening of Project Iran. Protests. That was caused by United States crashing the Iranian currency. And, our Secretary of Treasury admitted it. That's also part of Project Iran. Trump attacking again, killing Supreme Leader. Project Iran. It's all Project Iran. And they want to be able to keep on attacking Iran. And if this ends with Iran in control of Strait of Hormuz, there can be no more official wars against Iran. Everything has to come from covert action. And taking down Iran through covert action, like they did in Syria, that'll be an entirely different beast. Because location, Syria was between Turkey, US-controlled Iraq, and Israel. It had no direct connections with Russia, its ally, the Syrian Assad regime, or with Iran. He still had to go through Iraq. So it was far weaker. And that's why, but it still took them 13 years to take out Assad in Syria. Iran, by contrast, it's a mountain fortress. I show this every stream because it's worth it. It's a fortress country. It's far bigger than Syria. It's far more populated than Syria. It also has direct connections with two superpowers, Russia and China. And through Pakistan rail system, China can bring in anything it wants, and through the Caspian Sea here, Russia can bring in everything it wants. So, yeah, covertly taking down Iran, yeah, I don't think it's possible. Need 50 years. So Iran needs to be attacked directly by the United States, a constant bombing campaign to weaken the regime and make it collapse. But if Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, it won't be...
Proton snail.
Hey, Proton Snail. People are not versed in geography, and I think it's appalling how understated the war with Iran is. Yes. Now, what was I saying right before? Trying to remember my train of thought. Oh, well. Yeah, it has proximity, difficult terrain, less easy to cut off. Yeah, it can't be cut off. It is connected to Russia, and Russia has food. It has everything. Russia is a country that has every type of commodity you need. And China, combined with China, every type of manufactured good you need. You have access to these two countries. You don't need anything from anywhere else. So, sanctions can't cripple Iran. And Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. So, I think Project Iran, just like Project Ukraine or Project Russia, is going to fail.
Over time, you can just chip away at Iran, and eventually an opening will appear, and you can...
Well, the reason why they want to take out Iran is, one, it's one of the three big countries that oppose the U.S. hegemony. And it's one of 3 BRICS members. You see, for an alternative to the dollar to emerge, you need to have trading in a different currency. If they, for example, took out Russia and Iran, that would practically eliminate most of the threat from BRICS, because there wouldn't be anyone trading in the one. But right now, if you have Russia and Iran using the one, you actually have a trading system being set up between countries that is an alternative to the dollar. Then you can add in more countries to this alternative system, and it becomes a threat to the dollar. They're trying to nip that in the bud by attacking Russia and Iran and sanctioning them to hell.
Remove the government, throw the country into chaos, whatever. But the big problem they have is Hormuz. This is the one dynamic that the other countries I just mentioned did not have. And Iran understands this, which is why they're holding on to Hormuz, and they're using Hormuz for their dear lives. It's existential for them. Yeah. And that's why they put out a statement saying, you know what, if
they give up control over Hormuz, 6 months from now, the United States bombs Iran again. And Iran gets bombed every 6 months until the regime collapses. That's what happens if they give up control of Hormuz.
Down. Well, we've got Hormuz. We're taking everyone down with us. And so the United States is trying to get control of Hormuz. Maybe that means a ground operation, not using American troops, using other troops. And they're trying to figure out who these troops are going to be.
No one is volunteering their troops. No one is crazy enough to go into Iran with their troops.
Actively trying to figure out who they're going
On Trump's behalf.
to recruit as a proxy to do some sort of ground operation. They can't figure that one out.
I will say the Kurds, yes, they might get the Kurds to go into Iran from Iraq, but the Kurds, that's over here in western Iran. That doesn't help at all with the Strait of Hormuz. I'm talking about no country is going to send in troops to try to take the land around the straits because they know that's a suicide mission.
Maybe it's through airstrikes, but you have the best military analysts. You have generals in Trump's own administration telling him the airstrikes are not going to lead to any Iranian concessions. They're not going to get the Iranian government to fold when it comes to Hormuz. And they had the path of negotiation. They had the MOU, but they couldn't execute on it. So they had the diplomatic path, and it did open up Hormuz for 3 weeks to a certain extent. But what did the United States try to do? They tried to redirect the traffic through Oman, through the southern route, instead of going through what the IRGC and what Iran said was the acceptable route.
Exactly.
So that's the game that is being played right now. That's where we are. That is exactly where we are at this moment.
This is why the war restarted. The United States tried to encourage traffic to go through this Oman route and to not contact Iran, not get their permission, and basically remove Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran was having none of that.
There's a lot of talk by the Israelis about they're on the highest level of alert. There's talks about the Trump administration escalating, but also striking Pickaxe Mountain with bunker busters. Some people talking about a tactical nuke as the only way to quote.
The reason Pickaxe Mountain wasn't bombed before is I think it's just too deep. Even a nuke can't take it out. So I don't know what Trump is planning.
Damage to that facility, but you could use bunker busters or big bombs, not even bunker busters, to destroy. You don't have to destroy the facility underground. You could destroy the power generation, the power plants that generate power, the entrances, the ventilators that get air into the underground facility. All these different things you could strike. The ports that the logistics to get food, water, equipment to the people underground if anyone's there. So all these things could be struck instead of striking and destroying Pickaxe Mountain, which is, as some say, indestructible. So there's talks about this. Israel's establishment, according to Khan News, is on heightened alert about the possibility of a direct war with Iran. A lot of people are talking about how Iran, over the last few months, has been destroying the radars, even since last year, the larger radars, the early detection radars. And so that was their first strategy, and they've destroyed a lot of these radars. And then they've been degrading the air defense munitions, depleting the munitions. So now Israel's become, over time, a lot more vulnerable. The radars make it harder to intercept those missiles. The air defenses become less effective, and the air defenses also have depleted munitions. So then what the Iranians could do now is they could be preparing for a pretty significant attack against Israel, especially since the U.S. is now using Israel as a base more and more because they can't use the Gulf bases that keep getting struck. So kind of putting all this together, a lot of people are...
I heard that Iran struck the dormitories in the Jordanian base. So that tells you several things. That tells you that they've hit all the more important targets first and have damaged them. And also that they're not afraid of causing U.S. casualties. Rather, they might actually be trying to cause U.S. casualties by attacking dormitory. And it's also part of the efforts to force troops out. If in this heat, if you don't have a dorm with AC, it's miserable. So what do you do? Where do you house your troops if you don't have dormitories? They're trying to force U.S. out of the region.
For escalation, and there's other people talking about ground troops, but American ground troops going into the Strait of Hormuz. Not sure if you and Alexander have talked much about this, the possibility of a ground operation by the Americans. A lot of people saying it's not feasible, it's a suicide mission, but as a way to kind of gain some leverage over Iran somehow. I don't know what the strategy would be behind it, what the objective would be.
Well, look, if it's about getting control of Hormuz, the only way that the U.S. has any chance of getting control of Hormuz would be a ground force. And right now, the way it looks is that the only ground force that the U.S. would be able to send into Iran would be a U.S. ground force, something Trump wants to avoid, which is why I say they're trying to figure out what that ground force will be. Who will it be? Who will be the proxy? And they're trying to figure out, and they don't have anyone coming forward and saying, okay, we'll do it for you guys. They're looking for that Ukraine. They're looking for that proxy, and they haven't been able to find.
They'd love to be able to have a Ukraine to be able to throw at Iran, but they don't have one.
So
Who could it be? Though?
Ultimately,
Like the Kurds?
well, you had the Iraq prime minister. He was at the White House. I'm sure.
Besides, I will just say it wouldn't be as easy to do a proxy war against Iran because you have Ukraine. A large number of fighters in Ukraine are foreign mercenaries. The whole intelligence services of the West, the MI6, CIA, Mossad, etc., all the men the Western agencies can muster get sent to Ukraine. If you now had the same type of proxy war going on here, then what do you do with your mercenaries? Do you keep sending them to Ukraine, or do you start sending them to fight Iran? And Ukraine already has huge manpower shortages. If you don't get the 10, 15,000 foreign mercenaries a month into Ukraine, then Ukraine quickly collapses. There's a limited resources, and one of them is foreign mercenaries that can be sent in to fight against other nations.
I'm sure they discussed this. I'm sure this was the top thing on the agenda. It doesn't seem like that's gonna pan out. And the military analysts are correct. It's a suicide mission. You're gonna need a lot of troops. If you capture it, how do you hold on to it? Iran's just gonna pummel those troops wherever they are in Iran, wherever they manage to gain a foothold. They're gonna get absolutely demolished. All these things are correct, but these are the types of operations that haven't stopped the neocons in the past. So why would this deter them?
Well, this is different because Strait of Hormuz, world oil shortage, complete economic collapse. The pressure from that exceeds anything the neocons and the Zionists can muster. If you have basically the entire world screaming at Trump, open the Strait of Hormuz, and neocons saying, wage war against Iran, he won't even hear the neocons at that point.
Now, so I mean that's one part of your analysis is the ground operations. The Pickaxe Mountain is theater. What does Pickaxe Mountain have to do with Hormuz?
I agree.
Nothing. Absolutely.
I was wondering why they started focusing on Pickaxe Mountain. Maybe it's because of that warning Trump was given that Iran has nukes, and he was like, where did they develop these nukes? And they got the answer, Pickaxe Mountain. But even if that's the case, you can't take out Pickaxe Mountain, even with a nuke.
Absolutely nothing. But what it does do for the Trump administration is it acts as a type of way to gain another pause as things go bad in the current military operation. In other words, the United States is now on 11 airstrikes.
It won't work, but I think he might be right that Trump is thinking this way. He has in his mind, how did I get out of the war last year? Well, I did Operation Midnight Hammer, and I bombed those mountains, and then I was able to get out of there and declare victory. Maybe if I do the same thing with Pickaxe Mountain, I can get out of this Iran war too. That might be what Trump is thinking. Again, it doesn't work because of the Strait of Hormuz.
But in which direction are they moving? Are they moving closer to Iran? No. They're retreating. They're getting further from Iran. They went from the Gulf countries to Jordan and now to Israel. So they're moving further away. So they're getting further from their goal. So they have to now figure out narratives, figure out scenarios where they can exit for a certain amount of time. That's how I see Pickaxe Mountain. I see it as an Operation Midnight Hammer. It's the type of operations that Trump can easily sell, and he can sell it really well. We went in there.
By the way, I saw on Twitter a video of U.S. servicemen evacuating their bases in front of an Iranian attack. Base video. Let's see if I could find it. And the reason why I thought this was important is I've been wondering about these bases that keep being struck and there being no casualties. Now I realize it's that every time there's ballistic missiles and drones incoming, the soldiers in all these bases, they run outside. They have a minute or two of warning, and they take that time to just run outside. Yeah, I think this is the video. You see? U.S. servicemen. So they've had a warning that there's incoming missiles. They grab their stuff and hear the incoming stuff and the sirens. They run into a small bunker, underground bunker. So that's how Iran could completely level these bases, U.S. bases in the region with few U.S. casualties, is that the U.S. soldiers just run out into a bunker. But the buildings they were working in, this that you see at the beginning of the video, that's getting destroyed. So they might survive, the soldiers might survive, but they may come out and find the building they worked at is now rubble. And that's what's happening in these bases across the Middle East and why U.S. is being forced further and further out. Frankly, I think that's great that Iran is destroying the bases without killing too many U.S. soldiers. It's great that Iran is forcing U.S. back without lots of U.S. deaths. That's what the part I think is great.
There, we obliterated Pickaxe Mountain. There's nothing left anymore. Whatever nuclear components were there, it was the greatest military operation in all of history. No one's ever seen.
What do you mean? I wonder how much is under and how much is over.
Anything like it. And now Iran's nuclear capabilities have been completely obliterated. So we're going to take a step back. And they can take a step back. They can.
Looking from the video, it's a pretty shallow bunker, but again, the drones that Iran is using are very precise. So they're going to hit the buildings they're targeted for. And so if you run and you go into this you see the door here.
Okay.
So I don't even know if this is even underground. It's just a separate shack. Oh, it might be barely underground. Let's see, does he run downwards? No, this is just...
Okay.
It's not even a bunker, it's just another building, maybe reinforced. Maybe it's the building they think is least likely to be hit. That's terrible. Iranians, meanwhile, are under granite mountains and perfectly safe.
They could rearm, they could resupply, they can start getting the vassals in the region to try and engage with Iran to see if they can try to open up some routes for ships to pass. And they could get a bit of a breather, some time and space, maybe get the price of oil down the minute the markets hear that Operation Pickaxe Mountain was a success and the Trump administration.
Well, just a year ago, Iran used GPS, which we United States could spoof, and we could send their missiles off several hundred feet away from our bases when they shot them. So that was a huge layer of defense. If Iran was still using GPS this year, they would not. I think we'd still be operating our bases. I think there would have been damage, yes, but nowhere near what it was. And yeah, Iran would wasted a lot of its missiles and drones. So changing to the Baidu, the Chinese Baidu system, Chinese GPS, made a huge difference.
Administration has accomplished one of their major goals, which is to not allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon, and so they destroyed the Pickaxe Mountain, like they destroyed the mountains in round one in Operation Midnight Hammer. The oil price goes down, the stocks go up. That's what Pickaxe Mountain is, because the two, there's no connection between the two. So why all of a sudden do we have this narrative of Pickaxe Mountain?
Have you noticed that there doesn't appear to be as much market manipulation on the part of Trump with regard to oil prices? You know how he used to always do ceasefire, we're talking, he's still doing it, but nowhere to the extent he was before. I think he has been freed from that constraint. I think the danger of financial collapse because of a spike in oil is gone now. And so right now he only has to worry about the physical shortages. He doesn't have to worry about the financial market collapse. He has to worry about the economy collapsing because of shortage of oil. And that's why he's making no attempt to stop oil going up. And now it's going up and up and up. Again, I expect 150 before the end of August. We'll see if I'm right.
Surging to the forefront. Everyone's now talking about Pickaxe Mountain. I'm talking about Pickaxe Mountain. I make fun of Pickaxe Mountain because to me, I understand what this is. It's a movie. This is theater. It's absolute theater, but you have all the media writing about it. You have everyone talking about Pickaxe Mountain. You have all these really cool graphics and videos about Pickaxe Mountain, this underground bunker with all this sophisticated equipment, and Iran's moved everything into Pickaxe Mountain. Sounds good too. Really sounds great, right? But what does it have to do with Hormuz? What does it have to do with the energy shortage? What does it have to do with the current war that we're seeing, the 11 airstrikes that are going on in Iran at the moment?
You have Trump throwing his last tantrum, demanding the military figure out a solution to open the Strait of Hormuz. And U.S. military is doing the best it can under increasingly worse conditions. And there is no absolute solid plan on U.S. part because there is no magical way to open the Strait of Hormuz.
What does it have to do with the Iranian retaliations because of these airstrikes? Because everything is about Hormuz. And it shouldn't be, because Hormuz was open 3 months ago, like we said, but this is the hole that Trump has dug himself in.
5 months ago now, or 4.5 months, if you want to be more precise. This war's gone on a long time. Alex.
Yep. Yeah, the Pickaxe Mountain feels like it came out of nowhere, doesn't it?
Because it did come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It did come out of nowhere.
Because we had an MOU, everything was fine, and then the sticking point could have been Lebanon, but that seems to have eased off, where there's a deal done by the Israelis and the Lebanese, with the Americans also signing onto it, and no one's talked about it. Iran's been quiet about it as well.
Well, it's quiet about it because the MOU's collapsed, so there's no point in Iran bringing it up right now. If we start getting negotiations again, Iran will bring up Lebanon, and Israel will be forced out of Lebanon. And that, I think, might be the litmus test. If I was Iran, that's what I would do. If you seriously want negotiations, get Israel out of Lebanon. And then we'll take you seriously. That's what I would do if I was Iran.
So, and there's some sort of ceasefire holding on there. So it's like everything seems fine except the Strait of Hormuz. And that's all everyone's been talking about. And that's where the concern is. And both ships getting struck on a regular basis. The Americans started retaliating, then escalated their retaliation. And this is how we got to where we are. Then out of nowhere, Pickaxe Mountain's on the menu because Trump mentioned it in one of the press briefings. People are like, what happened? And they moved on. They mentioned it again. Okay, something's off there. And then the news cycle started all talking about it. But no one's really sat back and kind of looked at all this and said, what's the point of it all?
No, there is no off-ramp. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed. Trump might be wishfully thinking that it's an off-ramp, but it isn't.
Provides a peace through strength off-ramp, which Trump likes. It's very strong.
That would worked last year at Midnight Hammer, but the Strait of Hormuz wasn't closed.
Operation. He can sell it really well, and it gives him an off-ramp for X amount of time. And even in Lebanon, what you have right now is both sides are taking a brief.
I see what he's saying. Trump bombs Pickaxe Mountain, and he has an excuse to stop bombing Iran for maybe a week or two. I don't know if that would work.
Right? Everyone needs to rearm and resupply. The United States needs to rearm and resupply. We're getting many reports from many Western outlets which are saying that the U.S. is desperately low on weapons. And so the U.S. needs to rearm and resupply. You have Pete Hegseth going in front of Congress, going in front of the Senate, and saying we need another 67 or 87 billion. We may not even be able to pay the soldiers because we don't have money. We don't have weapons. He's going to get the money. And they need time to make the weapons and to get the weapons. But
the United States won't run out of weapons. I'm just going to explain that. When the precision weapons systems run out, then what happens is they switch to shorter range precision weapons. Precision weapons where now U.S. jets need to fly into Iran to drop off, to shoot these missiles. And they're vulnerable to being shot down. So if we include those, we can still keep going a while. Problem with that, the reason we're not using that is that we'll start losing fighter jets if we do that. And it increases the demand for jet fuel and refueling tankers, because you need to refuel the fighters even more. Just having fighters fly like this and to shoot off their missiles and then turn around, that's one thing. But if you need to have them fly all the way in deep into Iran, you add several hundred miles to the flight time. They need to be refueled in the initial time. You need X amount more refueling tankers. It makes everything more complicated. But it's not like the United States will completely lose the ability to bomb Iran. It just will become increasingly costly.
But they have to figure out the narratives, figure out the mechanisms, so that they can get this time to rearm before they restart. The question is, will Iran go along with this? I mean, what's Iran's situation? Where are they with regards to weapons? Do they need time to resupply, or are they going to hit the U.S. hard?
Well, again, I know they haven't used any of their really more advanced missiles, like the Fatwa 2. They shot 3 of them, I think, during the war. They have reported to have 50 or more. So they have a lot. They have a lot kept in reserve still.
How worried are you? So you covered Ukraine war so closely since the beginning.
Because if I'm Iran, I absolutely make sure I keep enough missiles to level all the energy infrastructure in the Gulf as a deterrence to the United States bombing Iran's energy infrastructure.
And you've watched this kind of escalate into what it is today, a forever war. Watching what's happening in Iran right now, obviously there's a lot of differences, but are you seeing a pattern of this war also escalating into what could become a forever war? And how bad do you think it will get, seeing where we are right now? Because on one side, Trump has tackled many times. He's talked about wiping out a civilization, then walked away. He obviously doesn't, he recognizes that strategic petroleum reserves are depleted. He talked about it. He's said he doesn't want to be Herbert Hoover. But then he is striking their infrastructure, making threats that, if he means them, are extremely significant. Are you worried that this could get a lot worse, and how bad and for how long?
I think the U.S. would prefer a long war if they can get control of.
It's Project Iran. It's not one long war. It's just attack Iran until it collapses. So yes, the United States would prefer a long war, but it can't get a long war. The Strait of Hormuz and oil shortage will prevent it.
Hormuz, because a long war benefits them. They're a bigger country. They have more resources. They're much more powerful.
Absolutely. If Iran didn't have the Strait of Hormuz, Iran would be in the process of being completely fucked right now. They'd still have one card of leverage in that mirroring damage done to them to the Gulf states. So that would still be a powerful deterrent without the Strait of Hormuz, but it still would be a lot worse off for them. There would be no pressure on the United States to stop. The United States could just start and stop bombing them whenever they wanted. And as long as they didn't hit energy infrastructure, Iran wouldn't dare hit Gulf energy infrastructure. And so it could just become a multi-year perpetual bombing campaign by the United States and Israel against Iran. And combined with covert actions, Kurdish incursions, new ISIS in Iran being funded by Mossad, eventually, after maybe 20, 25 years, they might be able to take out Iran. That is, if the Strait of Hormuz didn't exist.
Then Iran. And so a long war would definitely benefit the United States. Iran doesn't want a long war. The problem is Hormuz. And Iran has identified that their control of Hormuz makes the situation in Iran, makes the war in Iran very different. Something that Ukraine doesn't have. The conflict in Ukraine doesn't have a Hormuz type of dynamic. Syria didn't have it. Libya didn't have it. Iraq didn't have it. Sometimes I wonder if Iran even realized what an incredible amount of leverage they have over the world with Hormuz. I wonder if it's even surprised them.
I think they did realize it, but they also realized that the United States could bomb and kill the supreme leader. So if they tried to close Strait of Hormuz, they wouldn't know that most of their leaders would get killed by U.S. bombs. That was what prevented them from doing it. But when Trump killed the supreme leader, that threat disappeared.
Them.
Yeah.
Right. So I think this is the one thing that makes Iran different, and Iran has identified that. And the problem that the United States has with regards to a long war, which does benefit them, because then they can just chip away at Iran, and they have many tools that are not even military connected.
Yes, exactly.
To chip away at Iran.
Well, we didn't take out Syria with bombings, although Israel did bomb Syria a lot. It was ISIS and funding ISIS that took out Assad regime.
The NGOs, they got the allies in the region, they've got the information war, they've got many tools. They've got the financial systems, they've got the UN, they've got the international organizations, they've got the sanctions, they got the USD, but they don't have Hormuz, right? And that's what makes everything different. And so, right now, I see the Trump administration, they're 11 airstrikes in, they're going on 12. Eventually they're going to hit a point where the SPRs are down to nothing, where the economy is starting to spiral
And that's when the fun starts.
out of control, where you are getting very dangerous, catastrophic energy shortages, which will affect the U.S., and you're heading into the midterms. And so I don't think they're going to make it in this round, in round 3.
Yes, that's why the timing of this Iran war was so stupid on Trump's part. If he started it 6 months earlier, then he would have had, there would have been time. 6 months from that, like right about now, we would have already had a compromise. The Strait of Hormuz would be opening up, and the oil prices would have stabilized by the midterms. If he had started this war, let's say in June, again, 6 months from then, that's the election, he could have held the price of oil down all the way. But starting it when he did, February, that's 6 months to completely drain the world's oil reserves, and then for an actual oil shortage to start for the remaining 4 months leading up to the election. That is like a way to maximize the damage to Republicans in the midterms. So stupid.
And they're going to have to figure out a way to once again win some time and space and get the price of oil back down, rearm again, and figure out a way to get some ships through Hormuz, or figure out a way to work some alternate routes to get some of the oil flowing, maybe provide more waivers to Russia.
No,
Provide
there's
waivers
nothing.
to Iran, right? Which they did in round 2. Sanctions waivers for oil. China is entering the market to import oil again.
Yes.
China took a break in May.
You know what? I'm more and more believing that part of the deal Trump had with Xi in China is that, okay, you signed the MOU with Iran and get the Strait of Hormuz open. And if you do that, if you makes peace with Iran, we'll help you out by draining our reserves to keep oil prices down in the meantime. In those 60 days it takes to work out a deal, we'll help you out. I think that was the type of deal. And no arms sales to Taiwan, of course. But that's why the war restarts and immediately China starts buying in the market again. I think the deal between Xi and Bush fell through the instant the U.S. broke the MOU. And so now you have China in the market again as a buyer.
May and June. They dipped into their reserves. But now the word is that China is going to go back into the markets. This is going to cause a lot of pressure on the price of oil. I mean, in a way, China facilitated the U.S. in a way by
It absolutely did.
saying, okay, we'll go into our reserves and we're not going to go into the markets and start importing oil. Well, China's done with that. Yeah, China's done with that. So I think in this round 3, the United States, once again, is running out of time. And so they're going to have to figure out mechanisms and ways to get to round 4.
Crazy to think that the war in Afghanistan and Iraq later on started in 2001, officially ended when the US pulled out in 2021, end of 2021. 2022, the Ukraine war started, that obviously the US plays a massive role in. And that's ended up being a 4-year war. I think we're into the 4th year now, which is crazy.
Constant wars.
And now we've got a new war in Iran that could become a forever war. So that means since the 2000s, since 2001, it's been non-stop wars, as in major wars that the US is directly involved or indirectly involved in.
Big wars.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking about major wars, not small skirmishes here and there. That,
Big wars.
Yemeni
Well,
strikes.
Trump says it's a skirmish. So,
He called it a skirmish, yeah.
He called it a skirmish. Called it an excursion. Once upon a time, he calls it a skirmish. These
And
are
like
big
also
wars.
geographically, how much closer someone was showing me a map and how close they're getting the Iranian and Ukraine war.
Mm-hmm.
Each one moving up north, and the Caspian Sea kind of being slowly getting into a meeting point between the two wars, and how they overlap in many ways. Actually, a story today came out by, let me see who it's by.
They are geographically pretty damn close. Iran and Ukraine. not that far away.
By the Reuters, U.S. intelligence officials are investigating whether Russia helped Iran target CIA facilities in the Gulf, providing intelligence, targeting data, or enhanced drone technology, though no firm conclusions have been reached. There's been similar concerns with China. But in this Ukraine-Russia war, obviously there's a lot of overlap between Ukraine and the Gulf. Zelensky was in the Gulf a few months ago. And obviously a lot of overlap between Putin, Russia, and Iran for the last few years and the alliance there. So is there a worry that these two wars could converge in some scenario and become a one massive war?
Well, Russia has good relations with all the Gulf, actually.
Sure.
I would say better relations than Ukraine has. Much better. Yes, these wars are overlapping, and many analysts would make the argument, the correct argument, that ultimately what this is about is BRICS in China. Ultimately, at the end of the day, right? In order to get to China, you have to go through Russia first. In order to weaken China, you have to knock out Iran. So ultimately, big picture chessboard.
Yep.
If you want to get to your number one peer, if there is one, and then there is one, I'm sure there are people in DC that sit in some sort of a room and they got the big map there and they're scheming and plotting.
Well, just BRICS itself, those 3 states are a threat to the U.S. hegemony. Of course, they're going to be targeted.
It's China. China is your competitor. China is your adversary, and then the United States has called them the adversary. Trump called them the adversary a week ago.
We made them the adversary. We are the ones who outsource our manufacturing to China, outsourced our prosperity, long-term prosperity to China.
Right? Or one of the Trump officials called them an adversary. So yeah, you have to, you have a better chance of knocking out China if you knock out Russia and Iran first. Right? So I mean, but
if the United States managed to take out Iran and Russia, yeah, they might be able to take out China, because it would mean that the United States is far stronger than I see them. It means the United States isn't running out of ammunitions of every type, etc. But no, the United States can't even beat Iran.
There's the big picture, and then there's the actual conflicts as well, which are more than just about China. Going after Russia is something that the West has been wanting to do, as breaking apart Russia is something they've been wanting to do for God knows how many decades.
Yep.
Right? I mean, this goes back to Napoleon. Right? So I mean, this is something that every 70, 80 years, the West gets that itch to go to war with Russia. This time around, it'll be different. That's what they always think. This time around, we'll finally break Russia. Iran has been, as Trump says many times, it's 47 years. Right? They haven't forgotten. 47 years. The neocons can't let it go. The scary part to all of this is going back to what you said to me is that we actually have it happening now. We actually have the West launching strikes into pre-2014 Russia. Something that I never thought would ever happen. A nuclear power Russia. And they do it.
When did that start? When did that start? I lost track. When did they start striking so deep into Russia? No, when did it start?
Probably 2 years ago, I would say. Actually, it started with Biden. And the attack guns. We go back to that New York Times article, and we go to the Biden administration coming towards the end of its term, launching the missiles into Russia, crossing Putin.
Putin hasn't enforced any of his red lines.
Documented red line, because a lot of red lines are made up on behalf of Russia, where Russia never said there's a red line, and the West likes to project or attribute what they perceive to be red lines onto Russia. But in the instance of missiles being fired into pre-2014 Russia, that was a stated red line by the Kremlin. So Biden crosses that red line, but Biden's on the way out. Trump, in a campaign speech in December in an interview, what does Trump say? Biden's crazy, he says. Long-range strikes into Moscow, into Russia?
Yes. Where's that Trump? Where's the Trump that thought it was crazy to do long-range strikes into Russia? Where he's all happy that they're doing drone strikes into Moscow nowadays. I hate it.
That's nuts. He says, when I become president, when I'm inaugurated, I'm going to cut all of this stuff out. That's what Trump says.
He was lying.
Putin bites. And he says, okay, a red line was crossed, but we're going to be patient, and we're going to wait for the January inauguration of Trump and see if we can talk to the United States and get back on some sort of diplomacy track. Well, we see that there were some talks. There are some talks. Russia and the United States are in conversation. They have some back channel diplomacy taking place. But the long-range strikes may have paused for a little bit, and then they started up again.
Yep.
That's the Russia part to it. But it's this, that's the scary part. And the other worrying thing is that you have attacks into Iran, and as you said in our last video that we did, the world is becoming complacent about it.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, okay, we're attacking Iran. All right, what's new? What else is in the news?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the scary part.
That complacency will end in less than a month. Anyway, this was a good interview. This will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch. And I'll see you next video. Bye.